If you could just please stand up and do give the honor to the two ladies who are with us, Sandhya Singh as well as Raksha Mahabeer. Please, a round of applause for them, and may we stand. Thank you. Ladies, thanks a lot for coming out, and we do apologize for starting a bit late. If we could just, delve into it, can you just tell us a bit about yourselves, introduce yourself? We know there's the art and there's the beat. If you tell us your names and just a bit about your background, where you grew up.
Okay, perfect. So I would do my intro injustice if I didn't do it the right way. Hey, Sans.
Go for it.
So it goes like this. It goes, summertime, and the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy's rich, and your mama's good looking. So, hush, little baby, don't you cry. Hi, everyone. My name is Raksha, and I'm also known as The Beat. And together with this phenomenal art of a woman next to me, we co-own a creative agency called SummerTime. And honestly, the inspiration behind that brand name is that song. The classic jazzy version of Summertime, and the feeling of the living is easy. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk brand. To give you more about my background, so I come from quite a bit of a mixed family. My father was an entrepreneur, and my mom was an extremely hardworking nurse. So growing up, I had the best of both worlds, where my dad was in charge of sales for the family furniture business, and he was just this outward man who just connected with people and supplied furniture in them days to some of the biggest furniture chains across the country. My mum had this 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. nursing work ethic, and she was always about punctuality and getting things done right. And it's only now, as I get older, that I realize it's that combination of lovely values that I grew up with that positioned me perfectly for starting my own business. So I didn't always know I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I think that there was a bigger plan, and I got what I needed to get where I am. So today we're running our business for next month for 12 years. And I did a degree in drama and performance and media and communications because I was convinced I was going to be on television. And naturally, my strengths shifted me into the space of marketing. So I worked in corporate, in the marketing world for a while, and it was in that corporate marketing world that I met Sans, and we started SummerTime from there. Do you want to go?
Hello, everyone. I'm Sandhya, and better known as the art in SummerTime. She's the talker. I'm actually here for moral support today. But yeah, I always knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I come from a family who are basically, everybody is entrepreneurial. My grandparents started it off when they owned a fruit and vegetable business in the hometown that I grew up in. And ever since I could remember, I have been in business, as in learning about business. I did the traditional route. I got my diploma in graphic design, and I worked for a corporate to gain the experience, but I felt that when the time was right and the right partner came along, we started up the business, SummerTime.
And then now, congrats on the 12 years, but some people don't know what is SummerTime. Tell us a bit about the business as well as touch on the business model that you're currently running on.
Okay. So essentially, we're a creative agency. So we talk about delivering graphic design, brand development, and marketing support services to our clients. And all of those terms are so big. They can be quite vague and vast. So at the basic, Sans, like she said, qualified in graphic design and headed up the design studio at the corporate where we worked. And when we started SummerTime, the idea was to take our professional level of design and creation of really smart campaigns and make it accessible to the SME market. So primarily we do that. And what does that mean for an SME? It's we all know when we're entering the marketplace, what do we want? We want to stand out from the crowd, we want to be differentiated, and we want to sell our value at every interaction. So you can only do that through a well-developed brand and a good marketing strategy. So that's the services that we provide. We call it a sales and marketing toolkit, which is the basics that every entrepreneur needs in place in their business to go out there and trade. I know from day one as an entrepreneur, what do we want to do? Invoice. That's all we want to do. And that's important, but it's also really important, even if you're invoicing, to do it in a way that speaks a certain set of values about your business, your brand, and you as an entrepreneur.
Okay. And now just going into the actual meat. What is branding?
I'm going to look at my crib notes because I had this really great quote, and I don't want to get it wrong. What is branding? And I love that it said, the art of becoming knowable, likable, and trustable. Isn't that cool? The art of becoming knowable, likable, and trustable. When we think about branding, people say, I need to have a logo, I need to have a letterhead, I need to have an invoice template, obviously. But why? Behind all of that stuff, why are we doing this? It's because we want to create an impression in someone's mind about your business. People often speak about branding being the story that someone speaks or that someone recalls when they think about your business. So more than it being a pull-up banner or a logo or the material that you want to use to promote your business, for me, it is the unique space that you capture in your potential client's mind. So how are you positioned that when someone is looking for your particular product or service, you are memorable? That's what branding is for me.
And what is personal branding? What is business branding?
Okay. I love that question because how many of us in the audience are entrepreneurs? All of us. Okay. And how many of us are building a business brand? A couple. Not everybody. We're all entrepreneurs. Not everyone's building a business brand. Okay. And how many of us are building a personal brand?
I'm not sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Okay, that's nice. So, in answering the question, what is a personal brand? Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, he says, a personal brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room. There's no better feeling than someone phoning you up and saying, hi, are you Raksha from SummerTime? I got your number and I got your details from so-and-so at so-and-so company, and they said that you can blah, blah, blah. Then your personal brand is doing the business. So that's it for me. It is what you are putting out there that is allowing people to formulate a concept or an idea of who you are. And especially as entrepreneurs, I cannot stress the importance of a personal brand. So for those of you who are owning it and putting your hand up and saying, I'm building a personal brand, nice and well done. And for those of us who are shying away a little bit from it and are not too sure if we're building a personal brand or not, listen closely. You already have a personal brand. So whether you like it or not, your personal brand is being built every single day, in every interaction that you have with people, in the tone of your voice when you answer the phone, in the tone of your language when you reply to an email. People are building perceptions. I don't want to use the word judgment, but it's a natural human thing. We need to judge whether a glass of orange juice is sour or sweet. So let's not hate on judgment. It's a part of who we are. But that's exactly it. In every single thing that you do every single day, irrespective of whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you are already building and developing your personal brand. And now, with social media, with every single post, with every single image share, with every single blog or article or comment you make on someone else's post, you're building your personal brand. So for those of you who don't think you are working on one or don't think you have one, now you know, it's there already.
And the business branding?
So the business brand is, and I love it because, you know, when people think about business branding, we think about being a little more intentional. You know, when we say we've got to build a business, we think this is my mission, this is my vision, these are my values, this is how I want to run my business, this is my company profile. And you build all of this content that speaks to your business brand. You go and you get a cool photo shoot done, you develop a lovely explainer video around your business, you get a website done, you get all these tools that help to build your business brand. And similarly, there's a whole lot of things that are informing your personal brand. The difference for me between a business brand and a personal brand is absolutely nothing. The difference in action is that people tend to be a lot more intentional around their business brand than they are around their personal brand. Does that make sense?
I think simply put, it's the way, it's like your personal brand. It's the way you want people to see how you show up in the world. Your business brand is equally, it's the same thing. It's the way you want to show what your business stands for. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And in the last few years, there's been this big hype around personal branding. Why is that? Why all the hype around personal branding?
You know, I think there's so many lovely stories in South Africa that can answer that question. There's some on the good side of the scale, and there's some on the not so good side of the scale. You know, when we look at the announcement at the end of last year that Ndalo Media was closing, and everyone was going to check out all of Kanye Dlomo's posts and checking out all her profiles to see how's she coping, what's actually happening. We are looking at Ndalo Media as a brand, and we're looking at Kanye Dlomo as a brand. Now do we get it? Just in looking at that specific case study, getting an understanding of why personal brand is so important. Because it feeds, it informs, it influences, it dictates, it shapes, it guides every single thing that you get involved in. So Monde sitting next to me is a personal brand. Monde has chosen to lead the Startup Grind chapter for Pretoria. That is a brand separate from him as a personal identity. Monde works with me annually on the TEDx Pretoria event. That's another external brand that Monde chooses to be involved in. Monde works in Mamelodi Biz. That's another external brand that Monde chooses to work in. When we look at the things that you are associating yourself with, people are starting to develop, whether you like it or not, people are starting to already develop a sense of who you are, what your value system is, and whether you are knowable, likable, and trustable, and whether they want to do business with you. That is what the hype is about personal brand. You know, when we look at, and there's so many lovely examples in South Africa. We've got Vusi Tembegwayo, we've got Shlubi Mboya, we've got all these beautiful big names in South Africa. And when I speak all of those names, there's a feeling or there's a word that pops into your mind. And that's what personal brand is. That's the power of personal brand. Is there credibility? Is there warmth and connection that that you feel when I say Vusi Tembegwayo? Or is there something a little more negative when you hear his name? That's what personal brand does. It either creates a connect or a disconnect with someone. And why is it important? Very much like we would design a business brand, you know, it's intentional manipulation. You know, when we create a business and we create a brand, we make assumptions around our target market. We make assumptions around what their needs are, what's important to them, and we create content specifically designed to resonate with them. So when they engage with it, when they read it, when they see it, when they watch it, when they hear it, they connect with it. So we intentionally manipulate the content so that it appeals to them and they connect. A personal brand is 1,000 times more important because this is a person. This is a personal value system, a personal moral, ethical, lifestyle, gender, sexual preference, race, religion, age. There's a whole lot of things that goes when you're talking to a person, a being, versus a business. And we have the ability to use that to connect more with the people that we want to versus a business which can be quite more widely spread. We know when we look at target market segmentation in a business, it can be quite broad. We can say it's this income bracket in this geographical area. When we look at personal branding, it gets a lot more personal, connecting. Yeah.
Okay. And then we sitting here, we're entrepreneurs. We haven't as yet owned up to deliberately building our personal brand. So the question is, how do we build our personal brand going forward?
It's a nice question, and you know, I've done a whole masterclass on it because I find the need for it more and more nowadays. And I find that it's a lot more reactive. It's that penny dropping for you today when I say to you that your personal brand's already developed. And you sit there and you go, should I have posted that picture of me having tequila for breakfast on Friday or not?
Yeah, a lot of guilty people.
So I'm going to my crib notes again because I put a whole process in place as part of this masterclass that I developed. And the key word is intentional. That's the key word when you think about building your personal brand, is don't let it be a consequence of your actions, your personal brand. Number one, let it be intentional. So there's a couple of steps. The first one I say is to see yourself as a brand. Before you go and do anything, it's the psychology of it. So make the decision, I am going to put myself out there and I'm going to be a personal brand. Immediately when you do that, something shifts in your mind. And it's almost like stepping into the light and claiming your space. So number one, see yourself as a brand. Number two, Confucius says, know thyself. So do some deep introspection. If you need to work with a business mentor, a business coach, a community leader, a respected elder in your community, whoever it is, someone that you respect and admire, really get down to the nitty-gritties of knowing yourself. What do you stand for? What's your value system? Where do you draw the line? What are you going to get involved in? What are you not going to get involved in? Personally, if you engage with my content online, you'll see that I like mindfulness and spirituality. I like a good bit of yoga and meditation. I like entrepreneurship. I am the beat at SummerTime, also because I play the drums. So I like music. I like African drums. I like traditional Indian drums. I like connecting with new people. I like music, I like water, I like jewelry, I like flowers, I like chocolate, and I like children. So that's my personal brand. Whether or not it feeds into the SummerTime business strategy, or whether I should be sitting at Startup Grind on a Wednesday night, Tuesday night, is irrespective. That is my personal brand. So get to really know yourself. What is it that matters to you in this world? And craft according to that.
And I think that is really important also when, going to business with somebody, getting a business partner, like the two of us. I think we know ourselves so well, and our value systems are pretty much the same. And that is really the foundation for being together in business for 12 years now. And it's also helped us make really important decisions in our business that are aligned to our value system. In that, we were approached by a really huge corporate to create campaigns. And what that corporate stood for and the type of campaigns that were being created did not resonate with both of us. So the decision was very easy for us to both say, we actually will step away from this and, just move on.
Yeah. I think that's an important one because we find as entrepreneurs, after being in business for a couple of years, you get this niggly feeling of just discontent. So be intentional around being happy, pleased, content, around everything that you do resonating with your value system. So know yourself. You almost get to like I was able to rattle off to you just now. You'll almost get to a point where you can rattle off the key words of things that are important for you in your life. After that, what you want to do is start creating content. Now, this is a body of work, because the question was, how do you build a personal brand? It takes work, intentional work. So, like I was saying to you, I've developed masterclasses around the topics that I feel I have expertise in. What is that for you? Do you want to be a teacher, a leader, a guider, a nurturer? Is it an area of sport? Start to create content around that. Remember, content doesn't always have to be original content. You get your original content that you want to create, but you also get curated content, which is content related to stuff that you find interesting that you can share online or share in platforms that you can have commentary on. So you want to create content. After that, and when I think about personal branding, personal branding is much easier to do today than it ever was. I mean, probably 10, 15 years ago, personal brands existed, but to do a personal brand required a huge financial investment. You would need to get traditional PR agencies to write up on you. You would need to secure media opportunities, and those were paid for. And it was a huge effort. Today, it costs nothing to build a personal brand. If you have access to the internet and a good connection, you are all already building personal brands across your profiles. So once you've built your content, the next line is to align all your profiles. So the most successful brands in the world are those that are memorable, meaningful, and consistent. So consistency is the key. I don't want to be talking about mindfulness on one platform and then talking about something that represents the complete opposite of that. That's going to get the mind completely jarred and into a discontent state. So ensure that you are aligned across things, because what we are building towards is credibility. If you're not aligned, people think, oh, she's a bullshitter. She doesn't know what she's talking about, so they're not going to trust you. So that consistency is huge. Keep that in mind. And lastly, you want to keep learning. So the biggest detriment we can do to ourselves is if we say, oh, look at me, I'm fabulous, I'm amazing, I'm an expert in my field, I know this, and I am the guru. You need to talk to me about that forever. The world is changing at a rate today that is faster than it ever has in its history. So even this week, when I was meeting with a client and we're working with someone in the tech space around development stuff, and I said to them, let's get it checked out, because in the Christmas break that we had over the holidays, I'm sure all the coding and all the dev talk, tech talk changed. So let's double check ourselves on it, because the speed and the rate at which everything's changing is insane. So I implore you, as part of your personal brand development, is to keep learning. To keep learning. We've been running our company for almost 12 years, and last year I insisted that Sands and I go back to school and take ourselves through branding and marketing education again. Proper formal courses to upskill, to see where the learning is at today, and to see what the next generations are learning, and to bring that back and apply it into our business. So if you're choosing your areas of expertise, specialty, interest, keep learning on it. So that's really how you want to build your personal brand. Be intentional around it, know yourself, create the content, align the profiles, keep it consistent, and keep learning. Obviously, you want to create opportunities for yourself to be seen. Not everybody is like me, who's going to sit here and just be comfortable holding a microphone and having a talk about it. The profiles, the different profiles and the different platforms that exist will allow you to build your personal brand in different ways. There's a fantastic entrepreneur that we've done some work with. I don't know if you know Tato Khatlanya, and she made the school bags, repurposed school bags with the rechargeable light on the pack. And she's just launched her podcast range this year. And I thought that's so cool. You know, for someone who may not always have the time or want to be in the public eye, it's really nice if you are able to record your snippets of value that you have to add and put it on something like a podcast. So decide what platforms you want to be on. You've got a range of things, a range of platforms across the board, and decide what works and resonates for you, and then build from there.
Do you have any questions? The ones that have questions, if you could move to my extreme left next to me so that you can also be in the shot. As they will be answering the last question, please come to my left. Can you please just say, is there a difference, and what is the difference between branding, advertising, and marketing?
Another masterclass. You know, the masterclass I developed was called Branding, Marketing, and Sales. Because entrepreneurs would often confuse them or make assumptions that they were doing everything. And I wanted to clarify the process and the order in which you do it. So branding and marketing, let's start there. What is marketing? Marketing is the act of taking your product or service out into the market. So bringing it to the people, right? You are unable to take anything to the market if you haven't branded it yet. So it is an obvious and logical sequence of events for us to start with a brand. The brand is really the basics, it's the foundation. It's not even the building blocks, it's the foundation. So at the foundation phase, you want to be clearly communicating who I am, what I do, where I do it, how I do it, for who do I do it, why should I do it for you versus anyone else doing it for you, and most importantly, why I do it. So you know the TED Talk by Simon Sinek, The Golden Circle? People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. So if you haven't watched that, go and watch it. And it's really important to build that why into your brand. So you want to start with branding at the bottom as a foundation. The next phase is to then take that brand to market. So how am I taking that brand to market? And that's where the word campaign comes from. I want to do a marketing campaign. How am I doing a marketing campaign? Well, that's dictated by a couple of factors. And that's where you work with marketing professionals who will help you facilitate the process, where they will do things like analyze your target market, analyze your geographical areas, analyze your differentiation, and make recommendations in terms of where you should be marketing and how you should be marketing. So branding is long-term, marketing is short-term. It's short, sharp bursts. So maybe you want to do a back-to-school campaign to sell your stationery at the moment. That's going to be a 8 to 10 week campaign that you're going to start running in the middle of December or whatever, and you will put 30% off your stock. To give you an example, that's an idea of a marketing campaign. Sales is an activity, and sales is only supported, number one, if your branding efforts are done well, and number two, if your marketing efforts are done well, you halve the effort that you need to put into sales. So if you go and you have a cold meeting with someone, like a cold call, they know absolutely nothing about you. The work is twice as hard for you to convince them that you're credible, for you to convince them that you know what you're talking about, for you to convince them that they can trust you. If you've done a bit of branding work, and if they can Google you and they can get a sense of security around your credibility as a business, it's a tick box already. You know, the door is slightly more open. If they also go and look a little bit more and see that you've done a bit of marketing work around yourself, that you've got some testimonials on your website, that you've got some campaigns that you have run, the door's slightly a little more open. I know we all don't have the luxury of that often in the startup days, but start thinking to get yourself there. You can go branding and sales. That's often how we go as startups. We get the basics in place and we go out and we secure those meetings and we start selling. But from day one, start building your marketing content so that you start bringing credibility to the business. Did I answer the question?
Yes.
Advertising is a pillar under marketing. So marketing, think of marketing as the umbrella, and there's lots of pillars under marketing. Well, we know all the P's, the product, price, place, promotion, and now it's gone to 7 or 8 P's as we look at people and place and a whole complex addition of P's. But one of those P's is promotion, and advertising sits under promotion. So advertising and marketing, people often confuse that. I need a marketing company to advertise me. Fine, but that marketing company, if they know their stuff, they're going to look at a whole marketing strategy and analyze all the other P's in your business before saying you should advertise in the local newspaper or the local radio station.
Please, sir. I'm sitting and I'm having more questions than the ones that I wrote. Please, your name and your business.
Katlego, Brainstorm Tech Solutions. Hi. Yes, in your experience, I would like to know, building a personal brand and a business brand, would it be advisable to attach the personal brand to the business brand or make it separate? Like, for example, do you put a face to the business? Like Apple, when we think Apple, we think Steve Jobs. Or do we separate the two? Because I see an advantage to that, but I also feel that there's, if one gets hurt, it hurts the other. Like, in your experience, which one is better? To grow them separately, individually? Let's say I've got my own Instagram page, I'm growing it, Facebook page, I'm growing my personal brand, and I mentioned that director of so-and-so, but I'm not so much attaching myself to the business. And when I do a business brand, I'm also not attaching my face so much to the... Which one is better in your experience?
Such a nice question, Katlego, and I think many people battle with this one. There's no right answer and there's no wrong answer. Every single decision you make in your business boils down to business strategy. Every single decision. And I think a lot of us start businesses, some of us are survival, some of us like us because we had a skill and we thought we could sell it and make some money off it. There wasn't ever a strategic thought around, this is the business I'm going to launch into the market, and this is the short-term strategy and this is the long-term strategy. But when you start asking yourself questions like that, you're ready to start talking business strategy. And when you talk business strategy, you're looking at, like I said, short-term and long-term. And based on that, you will work back into how closely or how distant that personal brand needs to be from the business. I've had two scenarios. So I've had this scenario where, because we often work with your growth level entrepreneur who's ready for next level and they want to go through a bit of a more strategic branding exercise. And we often find that entrepreneur says, I'm in a growth phase and I've gone through all this trouble to expand my team. And every time they go out for a meeting, they ask for me. They only want to see me. I am the trusted face. They want me. If I'm not at the meeting, they want me to phone them, or they want the quote to come from me. So the question comes to us, how can you help me to distance myself from my business? Because I need the brand to now be primary. And it's a nice question because this is the sort of stuff we should be thinking about really early on so that we can structure and put more attention into those areas as early and as possible. Because there's this thing called brand equity. The more we put ourselves out there, the more we engage, the more we sell, the more we speak, the more we get testimonials, the more we get portfolios, references, the bigger jobs we secure. We're building brand equity in the marketplace. Now, if we're building brand equity more on one side versus the other side, it's going to take twice as much work to transfer that over to the other side so that people can trust it. So it really depends on you as the entrepreneur. I mean, there are some who, even though they were able to, I'm trying to think of the name, Stone Sherry. When she started her designs, it was all about her. And when she reached critical mass and she was able to actually go and distribute at Woolworths her designs, the fashion brand, hey? We understood that her ethos was behind it, but it was cool that it was being distributed at Woolworths. It was now more accessible to me. So there's ways in which that can be done. And that's really understanding the value system of that entrepreneur and ensuring that it remains consistent in the business, even when that personality isn't physically in the business anymore. And then there are those entrepreneurs and it's very common in the real estates, the estate agency, the Pam Goldings and that, where the business is so tightly related to that person that there's no way that it can move away from that. I mean, the woman's face was literally the image on every billboard advertising the business. So I hope that I'm answering your question. There's no right and there's no wrong. The answer is dictated by the entrepreneurs. Know thyself. It goes back to know thyself. Know what you want for your business and start as early as possible to strategically plan for that so that you can address that. And if you've reached a point where you've made the wrong decision and you have spent your startup years, you're in year 4, and people only know you as a person, and you need them to start getting to know your business, you can start to shift that in the marketplace. It's in the way that you pitch new clients. It's in the way that you put content out there that focuses more on the business versus personal. Does that make sense?
Do you have a follow-up?
Actually, I want to know, like, when I said in your experience, to be able to sell the business later as something that is valuable, it should be, you don't want to be in a point where now I'm Steve Jobs, I want to sell Apple. When I move away from Apple, the stock drops by 50%. So when I asked in your experience, I mean, anyone going into business also wants that business to be an asset, to be able to be sold somehow. You can't be stuck in it like it's a job as well. So when I asked in your experience, in what you've seen, especially in South Africa, what has worked for the people that started businesses?
You know, we deal with a lot of SMEs, and the thing we didn't talk about also is it's quite different when you're dealing with a business that sells product and a business that sells service. And if that entrepreneur or that personal brand is the brand selling the service, delivering the service. You know, so there's nuances and complexities in answering the question dependent on the nature of that business. So if it's a service-based business and that entrepreneur is delivering the service, it's going to take a lot longer for that client to disconnect from that personal brand and connect with the business when they hire 2, 3, 4, 5 more consultants and they're sending a whole new face and name to deliver for you. I think there's a certain degree of ease, and this is in my experience, when it is a product-based business. And with a product-based business, I find that still people do business with people. People do business with people before people do business with brands. Because we have access to so much more information nowadays, when we engage with a new product or service, we can go Google them. We want to know who are the people behind this thing? Why is this thing nice? And I think especially in a South African context, where we have the opportunity for so many beautiful local businesses to pop up, and we have the opportunity to work with so many more local businesses. I mean, it's part of our ethos. We absolutely love it. Working with more local SMEs. We want to know who's behind that business. We want to know the person behind that business. So, irrespective whether you're a product or a service, we want to know who are the people behind that product or service. Inevitably, when we're going to look at a business, we look at the team. We go and look at the about us, and we go and look at the team. And we want to get to the bios of who are those people and why are they the right people to deliver this for me. But when it comes to separating the both, it's going to take a strategic approach, it's going to take time, and it's going to take intentional work to deliver it, to change it, to shift it. Okay.
Can you please get the 2 questions and then you'll answer after both of them have been asked?
Oh, okay.
Actually, mine was not a question. It's actually, I wanted to comment, maybe to add on what you've just said, with your permission, of course.
Yes, sure.
Okay. All right, I'm Manu Machava. I'm from a company called Machava Advisory and Consulting. So what we do is we assist entrepreneurs. We actually business and mentoring and coaching in the business space. So what I wanted to add on was that you've answered some of the stuff that I actually wanted to respond to. But basically, you cannot separate your personal branding from your business branding. people do business with you based on your personal branding. And remember as well that your values as a person are going to be reflected in your company. And also, it's also important, remember some people, before they do business with you, they go and check behind you. They Google you. We've got Facebook. They check what you are posting on Facebook. They check your comments that you write. They check your remarks. So it's very much important to understand that you are this brand that reflects your company. We have seen a lot of people that have done things in their private space, which unfortunately affected their companies. And eventually, what happened? People moved out of those businesses. Some of them ended up collapsing. That is a reflection of the fact that those two are very much inseparable. You spoke about as well the fact that you need to empower yourself. In the space where you are in, you need to be branded as a special person in that space. Now, if people see you, let's say for an example, you are in an education and knowledge space, but what you're posting in a personal space is you being in clubs, you holding glasses of wines, and in that space, who wants to do business with you? So it's very much important to be conscious of your personal brand because it's going to reflect on your company brand. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mashaba. You have actually summarized it very well. There's a statement that says a transaction is likely to be successful if there's a certain name attached to it. So when you work on a certain transaction and you are this person, that actually has an influence on the transaction that we'll be working on. Thank you for summarizing it very well. Thank you so much, ladies, for such an enlightening talk. There are certain business words that dominate all corridors of power in the business space in the country. BEE, tenders. Now, to an extent that it becomes, sorry, my name is Mighty Mabule. I come from a company called Mabule International. We're an enterprise development specialist focused on coaching, mentoring, training, anything that revolves around starting and growing your business. Now, these two words, BEE and tenders, the beneficiaries of those transactions find it very, very difficult to understand the significance of what we're discussing now. To an extent that most of us that are in the space of developing entrepreneurs find it very challenging when we speak to the young ones, when you speak to the startups, because they look at the community where they belong, they look at the country, they look at all the, the environment that they belong to. They find that there's some kind of, an inspiration deficit. Because they say, why should I build my brand if I have my brother who is actually connected in different levels of supply chain and get 5 million tender? Now, what's your advice to the specialists in that area to an extent that we can actually cultivate and instill this spirit of personal and business branding? Thank you.
Thank you, Mighty. Good question. I also work in the entrepreneurial development space. In terms of our business model, we've shifted our model to work with people who build and grow and develop entrepreneurs. So we work with your business incubators, your business accelerators, and your enterprise development companies. And it's the sales pitch to them. Because obviously when you're developing an entrepreneur, you want to get their business model right, you want to get their financial model right, you want to get all of that coaching and mentoring right, and then we come around and say, but for commercialization, you need a brand. We've got to start. Fine, I'm not discrediting that everything else is important, but what's the point of doing anything of that, any of that, if we can't claim a unique space in the market and people don't know that you exist? In terms of BEE and tenders, I hear you, and I hear that there's a lot of that going around, and I don't know, in my utopian world and our absolute love for this country, we love to believe that we'll all get our piece of the pie by consistently working from a space of authenticity and honesty and credibility. But My advice to those would be to say that the only constant in life is change. The only constant in life is change. And being in business now for 12 years and making assumptions around things that I thought were a sure bet in business that 3 months later were absolutely gone due to situations like that. Similarly, for the recipient of that change is coming. And when that change comes and they have to go cold into the market and convince the market that they're credible, they'll come knocking at the brander's doors. So that's the only way I can do it. I'm not fighting the system. I believe there's a space and a time and the right people to fight that. And we'll continue to hold our clients credible and hold them accountable for doing more than just a tick box in the commitment to developing entrepreneurs and ensuring authenticity for their continued success. But the change will come. Okay. Good.
Just picking up on that, can a business survive without branding? Without a brand?
I love this question, and I thought about it, and I had no explanation. I just said the word no. Full stop. Full stop. I'm like, it's like the lady there at the entrance selling your beautiful innovation of your zip accessories. Well done. Let's give it a hand. What's more exciting than seeing cool, creative innovation like that, hey? And in the accessory space, I'm a fan. But I'm like, what's the point of doing all this product development, all this research, all this market analysis, all of this competitor research, pricing analysis, MVPs, market validation? What's the point of doing any of that if once you have a product or service, nobody knows that you exist? Nobody knows what you do. Nobody knows what you stand for. We are not opening the door for people if we don't have a brand. We're not communicating the basics to them. So it's like dating. It's like dating. When you go out and you on the prowl in the night and you see someone you like, you want to sell your interesting features to them. Hey? If you sit there like a wallflower in the corner, are they ever going to know that you're available?
Or it's like walking around on this planet without a name. How do people reach you?
The two questions.
Hello, my name is Lindy Kumalo. I'm the owner of Pretty Glen Products. I make my own products from home, natural products. I make facial soaps, hand soaps, lotions, and so on. So my question is, seeing that I'm in the beauty industry and skincare industry, how can I brand myself personally, brand myself and the business as well?
Thank you for your question. Nice one, because we've worked with 2 or 3 businesses like you. So we understand it. I think when you choose to do something like that, when you choose to do a business like you have chosen to, and specifically when you're saying it's all natural, there's a big why behind your business. So obviously the what is important. Is there a body butter? Is there a hair butter? Is there a lip balm? What are the flavors? What is the cost? Where do you distribute? Why are you different? Does it smell nice? Blah, blah, blah. There's all of that stuff that you want to know about the business. But most importantly, and because it's such a saturated market, because there's tons of people doing what you do, the why is important. The why. Why have you chosen to start this business? Why is it important for you? And if I have the same why in my life, then I could be your lifelong client. So when it comes to personal branding or business branding of your product, the primary or the key bit of information that I want to know as a consumer is why was it important to you. We had an entrepreneur that we worked with a good couple of years ago, and she was doing natural hair care products. And she said that her daughter, she didn't want to put weaves and braids and stuff on her daughter. And she said that her daughter's hair started to fall. And she was pitching her business to a room full of people. And she spoke about her daughter, and she spoke about one day she was in the bath and her hair was just falling. And all the women in the audience went, oh. And then she spoke about how she went to work on developing this product. And she spoke about how she wanted something natural and something that would condition the hair and allow it to grow beautifully. And suddenly she had everyone in the room eating out the palm of her hand because everyone had the same why. I want my child to live a healthy, well-nourished, wholesome life. Irrespective of whether my child was a girl, a boy, whether my child had that type of hair or not, we had a common why. And instantly you were connected. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. It was specifically around personal branding. Your question. Yeah. So I would definitely start working around your why. And again, that is entirely up to you, how closely you want to link it to yourself as a person. How confident do you feel in the space? How confident do you feel about your product? And how closely do you want to align you as a being to it? Do you need to be the spokesperson for it in your startup phase? And that'll speak to how closely you want to align yourself to it. Or is your brand, the brand that you are building, the product that you have developed, is it strong enough to stand alone on its own? Is there something so strongly differentiating it that no one else has done in the market? Or is there a specific geographical area where no one else is distributing this and you can dominate it? Then that brand can stand strong on its own. And a couple of other factors. So that answer I can't give you. That answer you will give by asking the right questions of yourself. And that's exactly the power of this, is a facilitated session where the right questions are asked so you can start making these strategic decisions for yourself from day one. Okay, thanks.
Just picking that, Lindy, you and everyone else who's here, should we outsource to someone to build our brand, to be in charge of our brand? Or should we do it internally? Where should startups be focusing?
It's so interesting for me because we reopened for the year last week, Monday the 7th. And it was so interesting because a woman reached out to me on LinkedIn and I met with her the very next day, the 8th. And she said to me, I need you to help me to build my personal brand. And I was floored. I was like, that's amazing. It's coming from you and not from me. She had been working in corporate for many, many years, and she has been building 2 businesses. And she said to me, I've made the leap out of corporate. I'm going into my 2 businesses full time. She's been running them for over 2 years now. And she said, I want people to buy me. I want people to buy me. And then irrespective of whether it's in that brand or that brand or that brand, the credibility that I bring here, if I sell, I don't know, candles, they'll want it. If I sell consulting services, they want it. If I sell cell phones, they'll want it because they know my value system. So I said to her, I'm so thrilled that this came from you, because often I have to do the pitch. I have to sell to you that you have to build yourself up so that people buy into you. And she had said to me that she had been playing between both the worlds of corporate and entrepreneurship enough to know, as a procurement specialist in corporate, she knew how important it was that people buy into people. And then as an entrepreneur, she brought that knowledge into her small business, that I have to build my personal profile so that people buy into me. But you definitely don't need to call me to do that for you. You are the master of yourself. So work on some self-mastery. Sands is a huge fan of Robin Sharma and all of his lovely self-mastery stuff. But you can decide that for yourself. You need not outsource anything to get professional copywriters to write your profiles, to get amazing photographers to take your shots for you. I mean, it would be really nice. I mean, if you have the resources to do that, it would be brilliant if you could get that done. That's sort of the strategic approach that the solution that I am pitching to her, that we will do your strategy and we'll create all your content and we'll put a plan together and we'll roll out that plan for you. But you are perfectly capable to hack that as a startup for yourself. But just get a trusted external party to work on that with you, or to check that for you. If you've got a business mentor, if you've got a coach, if you've got someone else that you trust, and someone who isn't in your business, someone who isn't blinded by the blinkers of, I love this business, it's brilliant, no one else does it as well as I do it, you know? You need a reality check when you're putting content out there, because that's what you're doing. You're putting yourself out there to cold people, so they're going to question you. So you can build your own personal brand. you can start, by knowing what it is that you want to stand for, knowing what it is that you want to be known for as an expert in what field, and from there start creating content around it. To give you an example, we worked with an architect here in Pretoria, and he was doing some amazing work. And when he got to us, his brand was not reflecting it on any level. His brand looked like a shiny nightclub with the grille of a car, like the front grille of like a Jeep or a 4x4, and a diamond. I was like, oh my goodness, this looks like an R&B hip-hop star. And you are building these absolutely classy architectural works, and it wasn't reflecting it. So we fixed him up, and we fixed up his brand. And now he's doing such lovely work because he's able to do commentary on, like, Dubai was building the first rotating building. So the building that would have sections that could rotate in its entirety. And him, as part of his personal brand, he would want commentary on something like that. So he would go and share that across his platforms and write his input on, from an architectural point of view, why this is important and what it represents for the architectural community. So start there. Start with knowing what you want to stand for, and deciding on the platforms is a big one. So often entrepreneurs make this mistake. We're like, oh, well, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, blogging, website, email campaigns, SMS campaigns, I'll do everything. No. There's no need to do that, and you'll also exhaust yourself if you do that. We know as an entrepreneur how thinly we are spread, how thin and precious our time is. So rather do one thing and do it well, like master that. Do that one thing, do it well, and once you feel confident that that thing is rolling and you're doing a good job and you have the time, add another platform on, or add another something on. Ensure that it's consistent, ensure that it's professional, ensure that it's speaking and aligned to your value system. Does that answer?
Good evening, at last. No, it's okay. My name is Sfiso Yana. I'm from Port Elizabeth. I'm studying textiles and fashion. I'm the creative director of Libonic Brands, which is a textiles and fashion company. Creative director of Medinite, my partner there, Khomotso. Medinite is basically a digital platform where we actually cater for local creatives, music in one word. So I have three questions. Wow. They're brief, don't worry. They're very brief. Now, considering the fact that we are building brands in the 21st century, right? And I like the fact that we are building brands. Most of us here are here on how to build a brand. Now, what I've noted is that if you are building brand now, our main influence, I'm 21 years old, and the brands that I know now, I'll talk of Apple, Steve Jobs, and all that. But you would find that those brands were built not here in Africa, but they were built maybe in Europe or whatsoever. Now, I've found that like every day we consume brands. Every day, approximately each and every one of us has consumed close to 20 brands. You woke up in the morning, you used a detergent, the clothes that you're wearing, that's a brand. Now, that sums up the thing that brands are the solutions to most of the problems that we're facing in the 21st century. Now, my question to you would be now I'm in university doing my second year. How am I going to create an effective and a sustainable brand identity? Considering the fact that when I get out, I'll be focusing on Generation Y and Z. Generation Y now is in high school, some of them are doing grade 10. Okay. Now how am I going to build an effective and a sustainable brand identity, not a business? Because a business is something else, brand identity is something else. Number two, now how do you create a cohesive brand hierarchy? Now you talked about how you're a creative agency, you work with different brands. Someone would come from another industry, Now I want to create a brand hierarchy. You look at FedEx Express, in their brand identity, you see cohesion. Now how do I create that brand cohesion in my hierarchy? Number three, apart from value and quality, what affects brand image? Apart from value and quality, what affects brand image, negatively or positively? Thank you.
Some great questions.
Remind me. What is the first one?
The first one, how do you how do you build brand identity?
How do you build a brand identity?
Yes. Sustainable, sorry.
So, there's I don't think it's a misconception, because I think we see it all the time. So when you talk about sustainability, we have to talk about evolution. So when we talk about brand evolution, it is that we started a brand one day, and 2 or 3 years thereafter, the market changed and everything changed. So we needed to evolve as a brand to still be relevant. So in order for you to build a sustainable brand, you've got to know yourself that well that when everything around you changes, you know how to tweak yourself to speak to them while still maintaining your authenticity. Got it. So if you go and Google brand evolution, and do it on Google Images, brand evolution, you will see there's some really nice examples of, who is it? It's KFC, Coca-Cola, the big brands. And look at how they have evolved over the years. And even though they have evolved, their essence and their core has remained consistent. So go and look at some of those big case studies, and you'll get a sense of how you need to do it. But as a starting point, always, is to know yourself. You seem to be pretty clear in terms of who you are and what you want to be known for, how you want to be doing things, but also with a full knowledge that you may be talking to different target markets, and what's important to them may vary. So spend some time also getting to know your different generations, what matters to them, and then from there, tweak and evolve. But you can't evolve every 2 years. A brand evolution isn't something that happens every 2 years, because you also don't want to risk, once you've built some brand equity, you don't want to shake things up and then your market doesn't know who you are again, and you've got to start building from scratch again. So really, take advice from professionals or do the research before you do that, but really be intentional around when you do that. Make sense?
Yes.
Next one.
How to build a cohesive brand hierarchy.
Oh, I like this one. Brand hierarchy is what we call brand architecture. Brand architecture. So when we look at it, we look at the structure. So typical, we could look at your Procter & Gamble, we can look at the Bidvest Group, you can look at Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola has brands like Coke, Sprite, blah, blah, blah. But then they also have Bon Aqua, which is a water range, and then they also have Minute Maid, which is a juice range. Now, when you look at brand architecture, this is a whole different masterclass, guys, and it's pretty challenging to explain without some visuals. But basically, you decide on a primary brand, and your brand architecture is aligned to your business structure. So you want to look at, and this question is related to when you are launching multiple brands, or when you have built one brand and you are launching an additional brand. And this has to be aligned to a business strategy. So it's dictated by the structure that you want to follow as a business owner and how you want to be represented in the marketplace. So you can do it in a couple of different ways. So there's the Virgin model, where the primary brand is Virgin, and the secondary brands all hold the same values as the Virgin brand, but brings it into different areas. So you get Virgin Money, Virgin Active, Virgin Wines, Virgin Cola, Virgin Hotels, but irrespective of what Virgin sub-brand that is, it still holds authentically the values associated with Virgin as a primary brand. Got it? So that's one way of doing architecture. The other way is doing a house of brands. So when you look at a Procter & Gamble is the primary brand, and the secondary brands are like your Head & Shoulders, Gillette, and blah, 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 whatever other brands they are. Those brands to the market are perceived as completely independent brands. So those of us who have an interest in business will go and look at the holding group structure and understand that it comes from the same company. But your average consumer, doesn't really matter to them who's producing that, who's at the head of that. So every single one of those brands has an independent brand strategy. They don't rely on each other for any brand values to carry across the board. Got it? Let me finish the last one. So the last one is a hybrid. So Coca-Cola is a hybrid, where irrespective of whether it's Coca-Cola or Bon Aqua Water or Minute Maid, They're still in the beverage industry, so it still has got that is consistent across the board, but they have independent identities. So someone who buys a Minute Maid juice may not necessarily have the same target market profile as someone who buys a Coca-Cola or a Bonaqua water. So those are the kind of things you need to consider when you're looking at your brand architecture. Yeah, it's a monolithic. Yeah. Very much like Virgin.
The last one was, apart from value and quality, what affects the brand?
So, you know, I had alluded to it, I had said it earlier on, that the most successful brands in the world are those that are memorable, meaningful, and consistent. So put some thought into that. Put some thought into, when we talk about memorableness, or what makes a brand memorable, we want to talk about, for me, it's the differentiation. So what is so unique about this brand that makes it claim a unique space in my mind? Next, when it comes to meaningful, that speaks to the why. Why is this brand in existence? How is it changing the world? Is that aligned to how I want to change the world? I will be a loyal customer of yours forever and a day. And consistency. So even though Coca-Cola went and launched sugar-free and stevia and all of those, that range of like 5 cans, we didn't feel compromised in any way. We didn't feel like Coca-Cola was compromising their quality and I was losing out and I should actually be paying a cheaper price for this now because I'm not getting real sugar in it or anything. There's still that consistency across the board when you think of that brand. So that's definitely a thing. You wanted me to comment on negative as well. I think anything that isn't well thought out. I think, you know, as business owners, the one thing that kind of like shifted us from our hustling phase into our, okay, I feel like a little bit of a big girl now, I know what I'm doing in business, slightly grown up, is intention. So I think a lot of the time, and this is absolutely natural, it's a phase we go through in our startup phase where we kind of try to be everything to everyone and we go with the flow and one day we're doing this and one day we're doing that and we're testing out what we can do, is intention. So if I am going to take a step to the left, best I know why I'm taking a step to the left. Best I know who is alongside me on that left side. Why do I want to be on that side if those people are there? How is it going to serve my business better? How is it going to speak to my market about the value that I'm able to add? How is it going to differentiate me? And how is it taking me closer to my why? So I think anything that's detrimental to your business is stuff that you aren't intentional about. And it's that big, scary S word that when we were asked to put one together for the first time, we almost crumbled, like, put a strategy together. We were like, oh, what is that? How do we do that, you know? So be strategic. Yeah.
Wow. With the last few minutes, yeah, time flies. What advice, you know, or tips can you give, you know, to those that are having a brand and those that will be starting, you know, just to create their own brands?
I'm looking at my crib notes because I had two points here. Those that are starting a brand. Well, when I looked at this question, I thought about it from a broader perspective, from an entrepreneurial perspective, and I think first and foremost, read The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. When we started our business 12 years ago, everything was so heavy. Oh my goodness. Like just trying to get one thing done required such a lot of resources, such a lot of time, such a lot of money, such a lot of investment. And now it's, if you have the access to the right knowledge, doing anything can be so much quicker and simpler. So I would say definitely read The Lean Startup and think about how you can apply some of those lean principles into your business. I would say don't be an island. You know, very often as entrepreneurs, we think, I have this brilliant idea. I have this brilliant product or service and everyone's going to love it. And I mean, we even fell into that trap. We've got some great failure stories, hey? Fantastic ones. That's a whole separate discussion. But we fell into that trap of, oh, this is wonderful. Everyone's going to love it. Let's go and do it. And that's where we quickly learned, like, don't be an island. Look at the market, look at your competitors, like, get real about your competitors. I've put a process in the business now where every 6 months we redo our competitor analysis. It is so well plotted on a spreadsheet, and I've actually got 12 that I've highlighted that I want to watch. 12 people, and then I've got the criteria that I want to measure ourselves against them with. Like, really do that. Do that, because the insights are fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I would also say reach out. In the female entrepreneurship circles, we say lean in. So when we need to ask for help, go out there and ask for it. You know, there's so many brilliant platforms that exist for us to get access to mentorship, access to coaching, and I think also within our communities, within our educational facilities, within all sorts of places, I find that if we just reach out and have a conversation with people, they're really willing to help. And then the last one that I always speak about is, just going back to our failure stories, is resilience. Like, there are going to be those days where you get up and you think, why on earth am I doing this? Like, what is this for? Why does this matter? Can I just go back to sleep? And those days can be really hard, where you thought, this is brilliant, I'm taking something amazing out to the market, and the feedback was horrible. And you have to have a reality check on, ooh, what am I doing? And find your why, because your resilience comes from your why. If your why is strong enough, it will literally lift you out of that bed and get you out there to keep going. Was there anything you wanted to add, Sam?
No, I think, I think it is that big one is around resilience, because, you know, it's, we were at a point where we were ready to give up after years and years of just being at it. I think it was about 9 years, no, probably about 7 years into it. We were just ready to throw in the towel. But there was always this thought, what if it's just over this last hurdle? What if it's going to happen just, and that's what we held on to. And eventually, you know, good things did start happening. So just really just hang in there.
Yeah, you know, we've taken our business from a two-man show in the lounge at home, out to hopping office premises 3 times, out to building out a team, out to turning ourselves into HR professionals and only managing people. And there's no pain like people paying people. And then in the last few months, I've decided to shift our model entirely, where after being in business for 11 years, we have gotten real about why we started the business, what kind of lifestyles we want to live, and we've shifted our business to a location-independent virtual model in the last 3 months. So, you know, allow yourself, adaptability is huge. Everything's changing all the time, and you've got to be adaptable. And we often see entrepreneurs who are they're physically stiff. They physically won't move from that stance of, well, this is who I am, and this is how I do it, and you better like it. And sooner or later, they will either fall, or they will have to curve and come around. In terms of building your brand, advice for building your brand, I would say if you aren't doing it already, just start. Please, because you are doing yourself a huge disservice if people can't find you. Like San says, if you're walking around without a name, nobody can call out and say, hey, Raksha, should we talk? Just start. And I know there's often this flutter and butterfly feeling of insecurity when we're putting ourselves out there. But if you are confident in the value that you are adding, it'll pull you. You will want to go out into the market and tell people, hey, I've got something amazing. If that feeling is not strong enough for you, go back to the drawing board and get real and really question if what you have to do and say and be and add and bring is really adding value. And then shift and tweak. Don't be hard on yourself. That's the other one, especially in our startup phase, you know. And I think, especially as women, we have this perfectionist streak and we have this speed streak. I want to do it fast and I want to do it brilliant and I want to do it now. Be kind with yourself because it's quite a load and you'll get there.
And be happy to fail also, because there's nothing that's going to teach you faster than failing. And yeah, all these years of I think I finally get it. And I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful for all of those experiences that's actually taught us not only what we want to do, but also very much what we don't want to do. That is just as important.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we can go on and on. I think this was a nice teaser. Perhaps we should have the two ladies to come and do a master class. There's a lot of questions. Raksh, San, you know what, thanks a lot for the insight. I still have a lot of questions about my personal brand and about the business itself, but what you've shared with us, I think we need to just go over it and actually be a bit more deliberate. You've shared a lot of insight. I'm sure you would, actually want to stand and give them a round of applause as we give them, a token of our appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, please just mingle with each other, and we will be having our next event on the 2nd week of February. Travel safe, and thanks a lot for coming out. Thank you.